Hi everybody and welcome back. This is the second part of our tutorial. Last time we added a debug overlay to our game, and this time we'll proceed with introducing another 2D component, the heads-up display. Let's do it in the same way like before. So to the scenes folder, right click, create new and create new scene. This time we will make it extend canvas layer. Okay, and let's name it HUD TSCN. Great. Now, we already imported one font for the debug display, debug overlay, but of course this kind of font is not too suitable for an arcade game because it should have something like a futuristic or I don't know, sci-fi look and feel. As a matter of fact, I already downloaded such a font. I got it here. So let me just drag it to the fonts folder, and here it is, ready for the heads-up display. Very well. Let's switch to the 2D editor and start adding the components. The first component will be margin container, because we want to create some space between the text and the edges of the viewport. We'll rename it to player. Go to the inspector and make sure that the layout is properly set to top left, which is, and the theme overrides constants. Let's set the margins in 10 pixels everywhere. Great. Okay, let's add another child node. This time it would be the grid container. Here it is. And we will set number of columns to 2. Okay. During the initial phase of our game, the HUD will exhibit just the current status of the player's ship. So it will have 2 rows, hull integrity and shield power. Let's add the first label here. Label. And call it hull integrity label. Nice. And we will edit the text, hull integrity. The font is not correct, of course, so we need to open the theme overrides fonts font property and drag our new font here and change the font size to 20 pixels. Nice. The second component we'll add to this grid container is a progress bar, because that's exactly what we want to show. We need to set up some properties here as well. Show percentage is pretty fine because it's always helpful to display the number in addition to the actual progress bar. Minimum value 0, correct. Maximum 100, correct as well. Step, this is fine too. We'll just change the initial value to 100. Okay. And it seems that nothing is displayed here because we need to change the layout as well. Let's open it, and container sizing, horizontal fill is right, but we need to check expand. And now let's drag this container and it's perfectly shown. Great. So we have the hull integrity part. Now we'll do the same for the shield power. Let's add another child node, label, shield power label, and give it a text and change the font. In fact, we could set up the whole theme and make it consistent across the whole project, but this is not a part of this tutorial, maybe next time. There it is, and one more progress bar that would be called, we forgot to rename this one, of course, hull integrity bar and shield power bar. Okay, and the shield should be at 100 at the start as well. Okay, I think we just completed what we wanted to. And the last thing we need to do is to drag this new scene to the main scene as well. Here it is, and let's run the project. And we have the HUD here. Great. Okay, our game is ready to import some 3D models, but we don't have any yet. To create them, we will leave Godot for a while and switch to Blender. Our plan involves designing a ship with modular components that will separate and disperse when the ship is destroyed. This can be accomplished by creating multiple objects within a Blender project and subsequently exporting the entire project in a format compatible with Godot. Our focus will be on creating low polygon models with minimal details. This approach will be adequate for testing the game's key features, and if necessary, we can effortlessly replace the model with a more intricate version later. Besides, there are at least 2 good reasons to keep the polygon count low. As the game gets busier with more things happening on the screen, there will be plenty of objects to show, especially when enemies break into many pieces upon destruction. It's essential to remember that having more detailed shapes in each frame puts more work on the computer's graphics card, which can make it slower. And since we have a fixed camera and a 2.5D perspective in the game, it can be hard to see small details or specific materials on the ship. This is especially true when players are focused on playing the game rather than examining the ship closely. We start with deleting the camera and light objects from the scene. Let's select them here in the scene collection and press X to get rid of them. Now it's useful to ensure that the view is aligned in a manner where the x-axis, the red one, extends to the right and the y-axis, the green one, goes backwards. Looks like we're fine. Now, to streamline the process and minimize the time and effort required, it's very advantageous to have a symmetrical ship because it allows us to apply automatic mirroring to all operations, saving considerable effort. To make sure that a very useful add-on called Auto Mirror is enabled, let's visit Edit, Preferences, Add-ons and type Auto here to see that yes, we selected the checkbox before, we should be fine, the add-on is activated. Now we can select the cube, press N to open the side menu, and in the Edit tab there should be Auto Mirror, it is there. Let's expand it and click Auto Mirror. We can verify that the mirror modifier has been added to the modifier properties. Before we modify the cube any further, let's do one more thing, and the thing is to activate the Move gizmo here. Select the checkbox next to Move. As you can see, it added these color arrows to the object. It will help us relocate the ship's modules along the axis. Let's proceed with creating a few copies of the cube. We'll do it by pressing Shift D to copy, Escape to keep the copy at the previous position, and now we'll drag this green arrow to move it along the axis. Great. Let's do it once more. Shift D, Escape, and drag it. Perfect. Let's select the first cube and press dot at the numerical pad to center it, and we will press S followed by Z to scale it down along this axis and do the same operation along the other axis as well. SX and SY. Okay. Now we'll click Tab to switch to the edit mode and press Ctrl R for loop cuts. Mouse scroll wheel to make one more loop cut, click and click to confirm. We switch the select mode here to the face select and select the horizontal face here and press G and X to move it along the x-axis a bit. Okay, nice. That could be enough for the ship's body. We'll proceed with the wings. Okay, let's press Tab to switch back to the object mode, select the second cube, press dot to focus on that, and we'll press S with axis modifiers to resize it to a flat panel. And S, Y. Okay. Now we'll press Tab again to activate the edit mode. Select face, yes, on the right side, and press E to extrude and move it to create new faces. Click to confirm, and press S to scale down. Again, click to confirm. Let's repeat this process to create the desired wing shape. So let me try. Just E to extrude, maybe G to move it up a bit. Again, E to extrude, S to scale, E to extrude. Yeah. Does it look like a wing? Maybe. Anyway, we should be fine for our project. Let's move back to the original ship body. There it is. Click Tab to get back to the object mode and to move the wings here. Does it look like a ship? Yeah, almost. I think it is okay. Now it's time to build the engine object. Let's click the third cube, press dotted numpad to focus on that, and we will scale it down a bit. S, Z, and scale down. Okay. Let's press Tab to switch to the edit mode and Ctrl R to make some cuts. Wheel, click, click, and again horizontally, mouse wheel, click, click. Very well. Let's switch to the face select here, and with shift click we'll select 4 faces in the grid corners. 1, 2, 3, 4. E to extrude. No, wait a minute, we need to disable clipping here, it's very important. So let's do it, and now E to extrude, click, and S to scale. Click and deselect. Very well. Now let's rotate the camera and do a similar effects on the opposite side. But this time we'll select the middle squares instead. 1, 2, 3, 4. E to extrude, click, S to scale, click, and click. Yes, I know that during the regular gameplay, these details might not be highly noticeable. However, they serve as a nice visual element once the ship is destroyed and the modules are separated. So let's press Tab again to switch back to object mode, and let's move this engine part to the ship. Okay, and click and dot. How does it look? It seems the engine is still too big. Let's click it and press S to scale it down. That's better. And again, move it inside the body a little bit. Great. Finished. The remaining modules, engine jets and the main weapon, will be based on round shapes, so we will use a slightly different approach here. Press Shift A and select Mesh Cylinder here to create a new object. Let's click X on this view gizmo to get a side view. Press R for rotate, hold Ctrl, and rotate until it's rotated exactly 90 degrees. That's it. Let's use scale to scale it down. Okay. And S and Y to extend it. Yeah, this should be fine. Let's grab the green arrow to position it after, just behind the engines. Very well. As we need 2 jet pipes, let's apply a mirror modifier. This time we'll do it manually because we don't want to cut the object in half. So let's fix the view right here. Open the modifiers panel. It's already opened. Click add modifier and find the mirror. Here it is. Let's activate the edit mode by tab. Let's press G and X, and as you can see, it nicely mirrors the whole pipe, and click to confirm. It might be a little bit bigger than we intended, so let's switch back to object mode and press S to scale it down. Okay, now this is nice. That's exactly what we wanted. Press tab to switch back to the edit mode. Let's select this back face and enlarge it a bit, and press I for inset and move it inside a little bit, and E to extrude to create an exhaust pipe. Very well. Let's get back to the object mode and we should be finished with this part. Finally, we'll model the gun to shoot our projectiles from. It will be the only object that isn't mirrored. Let's press Shift A and mesh cylinder again. And just like before, we'll scale it down and rotate. Press R, Control and rotate it. Snap to 90 degrees. S to scale down and SY to scale it in this direction and move it to the front of the ship. Okay, let's rotate the camera. This is a big gun, isn't it? Let's scale it down a little bit more and move it inside. Okay, nice. Now we'll press tab for edit mode, select the front face, and again make inset, I for inset, E to extrude, S to scale, to model the barrel of the gun. Let's add some decorations. Press Ctrl R for loop cut and mouse wheel to cut the gun vertically into 5 pieces. 2, 3, 4, 5. Click, click. Now let's make sure we are in face select mode, so we switch to it. Rotate the camera a little bit, and now there is a nice trick. Use Alt click on the horizontal edge to select all faces around the loop, like this. Hold Shift and do the same Alt click on this ring. Perfect. Now let's press I for inset to inset them a bit. Okay, click. Now we want to extrude all faces outside the gun while keeping the consistent shape. To achieve that, we'll press Alt E and select extrude faces along normals. Now if we move the mouse, everything is extruding in the right way. Left click to confirm. Yeah, I would say the modular ship is now completed. Let's have a look. To make our work in Godot easier, let's rename the parts in the scene collection tree. We'll double click each of them and use more descriptive names. So let's start with body. This one, wings. Engine. Jets. And the last one is weapon. Ctrl S to save our project. The ship construction is complete, but it lacks any materials, which results in a rather unremarkable appearance. So, when it comes to adding materials, we have two options. Either we can do it ourselves in Blender, or we can assign them manually in Godot. Personally, I tend to favor the latter option because it allows for easier sharing of materials across different objects. This approach helps reduce memory consumption and improves the responsiveness of the game engine. However, let's keep things simple for now, and we will design the entire ship using Blender. As we progress and start modeling various enemy objects, we will showcase the benefits of material sharing in Godot as well. Let me demonstrate a clever technique I learned for assigning a chosen color to each face of the model. The trick involves utilizing a single texture with a color palette, which I discovered while watching a Blender course on YouTube. While I definitely cannot take credit for inventing this method, I strongly believe it to be the most efficient way to paint low poly models. So first, we need the color palette texture. You can either download it from a palette database or simply search the web for a free palette image. Personally, I did the latter, and the palette file is already ready on my disk. So let's click here to the Shading tab and click New to create a new material. Now I'll find the palette file here, it's ready. So I'll drag it here to create a new element in the material tree, material chart, and simply click here and connect the color to the base color. And we can see that the weapon is already colorized. The rest wasn't affected because we didn't assign the material to all separated parts of the model, but we can easily fix that. Let's switch back to layout, and here we have selected the part that is already has the material assigned. Now we will press A to select everything else and click Tab to switch to the object mode, press Ctrl L and use Link Materials. It's not visible here, but if we switch to the material preview, we can see that all parts of the ship are nicely colorized. We can switch back to shading. Oh no, I think we are finished here. We will switch to UV editing. And now we will activate the material previewer here as well. There it is. Now we will move the mouse cursor here over the model and select A to select all faces here. Move the mouse to the left part, press A again, and now we need to reduce this vertex mapping to a single point. There is a trick to do that. Press S for scale and 0 to scale it down to 0 and click. That's it. Let's try it out. It seems that all faces are selected currently, so on the left side we will choose some base color. Press G and move the dot. You can see how the whole ship is being painted by a single color. We'll select, for example, this blue. This is nice. And if, for example, we want to change the color of the jet engines, we will select these faces by pressing Alt click and Shift Alt click and Shift Alt click. Move the cursor to the left side, press G and make them, for instance, black or gray. That's it. Okay. Okay, it's obvious that I skipped the rest of the painting part because watching me coloring the ship using a trial and error method wouldn't be too inspirational. But it only proves that anybody can make simple models if you just learn some basic techniques. Even though the ship resembles a parrot or something even more bizarre, it's still a functional 3D model that we can use in our game. So let's press Ctrl S to save the project and proceed with exporting it. It's done here in File menu, Export, and we will select GLTF 2.0. Okay, and let me export this file as player GLD. And one more thing, we need to make sure that these options in data, mesh, apply modifiers, this checkbox is selected. If we don't do that, the model would be exported without the mirror meshes, so it would be just a half of the ship. Now we can press export and the ship is exported. Nice job! The ship model has been successfully exported and is now prepared for importing into Godot. In the next video, we will integrate it into our first scene and make it fly across the screen.